Hello and welcome to another episode of Outsuit. Today we're going to talk about asset management, specifically for small and mid-sized businesses. So to help me understand their needs and requirements, here's my good friend Criss Scruggs. Welcome to the zoo, Criss.
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
Tell me this, asset management, isn't that a bit of an overkill for some of these small and mid-sized businesses? Is that something really they need? They don't have that many laptops. They don't really have a major IT infrastructure. Is there really a need or methodology around their requirements?
I would say that there is. I mean, there's different size SMBs. If you're a 10-man company running off a couple of servers or you've outsourced, you're probably really not. You can keep track of that with an Excel spreadsheet and do fine. But medium-sized companies, they range 300, 500 employees. How many devices per head? It starts to add up fast. And it really then, just like with any large company, a small company has the responsibility of, good stewardship and making sure that they're tracking those devices. Just the same as anyone else. It's important for a small company to be financially smart with their IT investments, so knowing what they have, knowing where it is, understanding their software. It's a big piece. A small company is not, or a mid-sized company is certainly not immune to audits, so that's something that's really important. And you have a lot of mid-sized companies that also work with credit card transactions from a variety of different industries. Making sure that you're compliant is a really big important piece of doing that, and it is frankly a big driver for why a lot of organizations, especially mid-sized organizations, look for an asset solution. We have a great example, a chain restaurant, actually, they're in Canada and all over the United States, ran into a problem where they were actually in jeopardy of losing the ability to take credit cards. And if you're talking about fast food and pizza, not being able to come in and charge it on the card could be a really big deal. So they were in a position where they needed to be able to automate rolling out patches to meet the PCI requirements that have been placed upon them. So it really can make a difference. You may not be the largest organization, but you might be spread out. And having an automated asset management solution can go a long way with easing the demands on IT. And keeping you current and keeping you secure.
Well, it is interesting because it's easy to say that any small company don't need asset management or mobility and things like that, but small companies have so few resources, they need more automation than large corporations sometimes who have hundreds of people doing the same tasks as others. So it's almost more of a requirement for the smaller companies than for the large corporations.
And it is, it's scale, absolutely, and where you're exactly right. A larger company has a bigger staff. That whole do more with less, absolutely applies. And the other thing about it is that managing the assets is just part of what IT does. The more that we can automate management of those assets and management of the software, the more time that IT can start working with the business to help them do what they do best and really focus on what they need to do to be successful.
That is a big obstacle in the journey to transform the IT and the business. Yeah, is you don't have enough resources and time. Tell me this whole consumerization of IT, and then bring your own device or bring your own IT to work. What type of impact has that had on the small and mid-sized businesses in relation to asset management?
I think that just like you see in the news where, stories about a stolen laptop or a phone left in a cab, the negative impacts of what can happen with any of those activities can impact a small company or a mid-sized company just like it does a large organization. They're not immune to that. We've got publicly traded companies that only have 300 employees. They would be considered, small or mid-sized. But negative press is negative press, and that impacts the financials, the bottom line at the end of the day. And then there's, frankly, consumerization, the whole deal, mobile, keyword, is that all of a sudden, as everybody knows, all of your intellectual property is, do you know where it is? And that's really the question, do you know where it is? Do you know who's moving it from here to there? Do you know who's viewing it at any point in time? So they have a lot of the same interest, that any company would have when it comes to mobility, and having a tighter control without negatively impacting the user productivity that all of this mobility has brought to the table that's so great is really important. So it's kind of, again, finding that balance. And a smaller company really has to rely on tools, I think, to do that, particularly because they may not have the in-house expertise and knowledge when you're talking about all of the different consumer, mobile platforms that are out there.
Yeah.
It really behooves them to leverage that technology that can support managing those devices and making sure that the content is secured. It goes a long way. It's had a big impact on SMB.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when risk and compliance is an issue that we all have to tackle more and more frequently. So you at BMC Software, you manage a product that is specifically for this market called Asset Core. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us a little bit what's new, what's on the roadmap.
Well, there's a lot of amazing things going on with the Asset Core market. So if you're familiar with it, it's Footprint's Asset Core, which is great. We came from the Numara Software acquisition, and traditionally had really been focused on the mid-market when we were Numara. There's a lot of great things that we've released lately. One of my favorites, and I know you've seen the commercials and you and I have talked about it a lot, is My Apps. And that really is a way to provide self-service to your employees from their desktop. So literally with a quick click of a button, you can allow an employee to access or download any software that would be relevant for their job, but maybe you don't want to download it by default as an IT guy. That eats up a license and you don't know if they're going to use it. So it's really kind of more about smart software availability and supporting this self-service option that, well, with consumerization that everybody's looking for, I want it now, mentality. Yeah. I don't want to have to wait for IT to remote into my desktop, interrupt me, and download something. And that's really been great. But the other aspect and thing that we've been doing is working on scalability. So we actually also are marketing towards the enterprise with client management. BMC Client Management is it's Asset Core by another name, frankly, just not to be confusing, but it's a suite version. So where the mid-market, they like to bite off what they can chew, we have a modular approach so that, when you're ready to discover everything and then now you're ready to start patching everything, you can do that in stages. And enterprise typically, or as you get larger, you may want to do several of those things back to back or more often. And of course, now we have BMC Client Management on Demand as well. So particularly for our IT service management customers that want to integrate assets into their service desk, Remedy Force, for instance, or even Remedy on Demand now has the opportunity to leverage client data in a larger environment. So it's really designed, to scale, and that's really been a lot of our focus for the last 12 months is making sure that we can support all of our ITSM customers as best as we can.
Great. Well, it's an interesting place, and it's a market that is growing very, very quickly because of this influx of technology in not only our work, but in life in general, and it sort of spills over into our work side. So it's really interesting to hear your take on it. I appreciate you taking the time to come and visit me in the zoo.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alf. I appreciate you inviting me along.
Thank you. And for the rest of you, take care. Be safe. Bye.